For most of my life, I thought that retirement meant working until 65 because that's what everyone does. But once I understood how money actually works, that timeline stopped making sense for me. And it wasn't because I became wealthy or suddenly figured everything out. It was because I started seeing time and money differently. After paying off over $180,000 in debt and getting serious about financial independence, I realized the goal of retirement wasn't someday. It was to start building freedom sooner. So in this video, I wanted to share why I'm not waiting until 65 and what changed my thinking completely. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Stephanie and I'm in my 40s, and my financial journey hasn't exactly followed a straight line. I married young, became a mom at 19, went through a divorce and layoffs, and later paid off $180,000 in debt. Now I'm remarried, on track to paying off our home, and moving toward early retirement. And this channel is where I share what I'm learning and what's actually working as I go. If you're on this journey too, you're in the right place. Retirement at 65 feels automatic. You go to school, you get a job, you work for decades, and then you retire. But who actually picked that number? I realize that no one ever explains why it's 65. It's just a known number that everybody just accepts. And I realized it's mostly based on a historical system, something that's just been a thing that everybody just accepted for decades. And that feeling of running towards this number that I didn't pick just didn't sit well with me. So my first shift in thinking was that the age was a guideline and not a hard and fast rule. And once you understand money, you can redesign your timeline any way you want. Everyone's timeline is different, and what their retirement would look like could be completely different than yours. Maybe a $5 million timeline of saving up a bunch of money so you can travel the world is not going to work out for you who wants to be a gardener in your backyard. And at first, I thought that the biggest change was questioning the timeline. But honestly, that wasn't the part that changed my life. What surprised me more was realizing the real trade I had been making this whole time. My earlier focus was earning more money. My belief in security meant that the more money I make, the more secure I would be. But over time, I realized that more money didn't equal more peace or security. And all the while, time just kept disappearing. And waiting decades for retirement just felt expensive. Time is money. You can never get that time back. I remember at one time, my previous job, if it was somebody that was going to retire, we'd gather around in like the auditorium area and they'd have a big cake and they'd invite the whole shop over and we would all say congratulations, and they would bring their family in and take pictures and cut the cake, and everybody would like wish them well and then secretly kind of be pissed off and be like, lucky him, lucky bastard, he gets to retire, right? And I remember specifically there was this one guy, didn't really know him all that well. Like I said, we all just kind of go over there and wish him well, whether you knew him or not. Sometimes when you're leaving the facility, before you reach the turnstiles, there's like a sign that they put up that tells you about like future events, about blood drives or whatever. And every once in a while, there'll be an obituary. And I remember specifically after this particular individual retired, not but 5, 6 months later, his picture was up there saying in memory of the feeling that I felt that I did not want that to happen to me, that I reached retirement age. I have my entire life of saving this big stockpile of money, and I retire. And a few months later, I die. I mean, that affected me quite a bit. I mean, obviously, we felt bad for the family and everything, but just thinking about those decades of sacrifice that he put in to retire and want to spend time with his family, and he just passes away. I mean, I after that moment, I thought to myself, I do not want that to happen for me. That's when I had in my head that financial independence was my real goal. I felt that time flexibility was the real asset now. You cannot get time back. Once that time is spent, it's gone. So the real flex is time. So that saying of time is money, that's what that means. That's what I realized. And that's when I realized something uncomfortable. The true hidden cost of waiting. We assume we have our health and we're going to live forever, right? You feel great now. So we assume when we retire, we're going to feel great then too. Maybe we'll have a couple ailments here and there, and maybe your back feels a little bit funny, but nothing that a stretch couldn't help you out with. And you assume you have this time later on, right? Like later I'll have time for this goal of mine. I can visit, this place someday, right? It's always someday in the future. I can't do it now, I'll do it someday. But there's no guarantees in life, right? The way we imagine what our future could look like, I mean, that could be completely different. Maybe I imagine myself, I don't know, hiking or something. I don't hike, obviously. But maybe, I think I'm going to be a hiker, right? And then, like, I have some severe surgery down the road on one of my legs or something, and I can't walk anymore. Or I have, like, a cane or something like that. I cannot guarantee on what my future is going to look like later. No one can. So, with this new way of thinking, I want to start designing my life earlier rather than later. I don't want to think of me escaping the rat race later. I want to start making my exit strategy earlier, not when I'm 65. I want to still have my health, my energy, my motivation. I want to have my brain power. I want to have all these things when I retire. And, you know, making that happen earlier rather than later is priority to me now. I'm shifting from a delayed life to gradual freedom now. But this doesn't mean quitting tomorrow. Not waiting until 65 actually means freedom before retirement. The biggest misunderstanding is that retirement means never working again. So if someone tells you, I'm retired, and they say they work part time, you're like, oh, you're not retired, you're still working. We have this stigma that says if you say you're retired, then you shouldn't be doing anything, right? You shouldn't be gaining any side income. You shouldn't be, doing any kind of W-2 work. You shouldn't be doing any consulting of any kind. It just means you're retired and you do nothing. But do you know anybody that's retired that literally does nothing? They, have some kind of hobby that they do. Maybe they babysit, or maybe they work 2 times a week. So we have this mindset that says, oh, I'm retired, so that means I shouldn't be doing anything. I have to have all this money and I could never earn money ever again because I'm retired. It's also tied to identity and productivity, right? So I've been in my career for many, many years now. And once I retire, I'm going to have something else to do. You have to have something to retire to, right? People struggle when they're done working that they don't have an identity anymore. Who am I without my, fill in the blank title? Who am I as a person if I don't work at XYZ company doing XYZ work, And there's that fear of instability where we're like, hey, I don't have a W 2 anymore. How am I going to make money? Because I'm retired. I can't go back to work. I mean, you're retired. You can do whatever you want. You literally can do whatever you want. You design your life, it's up to you. So the real goal is options and flexibility and slower pace, right? It's up to you, however you want to design it. And work feels like a choice rather than an obligation, right? If you want to do something in your spare time, go for it, right? You do whatever you want. It's your time. You don't have anybody telling you what you need to be doing anymore. It's up to you to design your life the way you see fit. At the present time, I'm still building and I'm still learning and still growing. But my timeline now feels intentional, right? I'm the designer of my life now and I have a goal. Whereas before, I was just going to work and saving cash and I really didn't have a purpose of what I wanted to do later, right? It was just a someday. I would always think someday I'm going to retire, but now that I have an intentional mindset, my strategy has completely changed on how I look at retirement. Freedom starts way before retirement day. This channel exists for late starters who are rethinking on what money is. We're going to learn together. And if this video has helped you in any way, please consider subscribing and liking the video, as it really does help the channel grow. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.